So now, who do we got coming up next to the plate?
We got the diamond, fellas.
Let's go!
We got a base! There we go.
For about as long as pro baseball has been around, one question has popped into the minds of fans all over the world. If I were able to get enough at-bats, could I get a hit against a professional pitcher? Some people are wise enough to realize that they probably wouldn't. Others are arrogant enough to believe that they actually could. But only very few of us get to actually test out that theory in practice. And a few weeks ago, I became one of those lucky few. A few months ago, during the midst of the MLB lockout, fellow YouTuber 5 Points Vids started putting together a group of YouTubers with the purpose of staging an exhibition baseball game. And to his credit, he was able to put together a star-studded cast that included the likes of RBT, Urinane Tree, Fuzzy, Giraffe Neck Mark, Foolish Baseball, and Stark Raving Sports. And for some reason, I was invited to tag along with this grand experiment. We could have just organized an event where we played against each other and called it a day. But we decided that if we wanted to actually do this right, we needed to bring in a legitimate team with legitimate players. And so, 5 Points started reaching out to random teams on Twitter, seeing if any of them would actually take us up on our offer. And to our surprise, one actually did. The Burlington Sock Puppets, a professional summer ball team in the MLB-affiliated Appalachian League that was made up of D1 and D2 prospects that were likely going to be drafted in the next couple of years. They took us up on our offer with open arms actually, and very quickly a date was set, June 1st, 2022. At this time, it was about the beginning of March, which basically meant that I had about 90 days to prepare myself to hit against an actual professional pitcher with an actual 90-mile-an-hour fastball. In other words, I needed a plan, and fast. The plan was simple. Step 1 was to rehab my body and get it back into a somewhat decent playing shape. Step 2 was to get my swing back in order and prepare for the level of pitching I was going to face. And step 3 was to travel to Burlington, North Carolina and put my preparation to the ultimate test. But before I could even get onto the field, I had a long way to go. You see, at this point, I haven't been able to really throw a baseball in almost 6 years. Somewhere around my senior year of high school, I messed up my rotator cuff pretty badly, and because of it, I couldn't throw a baseball without an excruciating amount of pain. And it also affected me with my swing too, so I really couldn't do that either. And unfortunately, because I didn't really have good enough insurance to cover it, and because it didn't really affect anything else in my life, I just decided to not get it checked out and kinda deal with it. However, this game finally gave me the excuse I needed to actually go to physical therapy and get my body back in working order. So that was my first order of business. Luckily for me, there was no structural damage in my shoulder that needed surgery. So after a few weeks of working with the great folks at Camelback Sports Therapy and implementing their stretching and exercise routines, I was finally able to throw a ball and swing a bat properly for the first time since high school.
Right now I'm getting some multitasking done. I'm just now getting done with a pretty long walk, trying to get my body right for the game coming up. And at the same time, I'm just getting done listening to a Swedish lesson on my headphones. Förstår du svenska? Kommentera nidan. Hi puppy.
With my body finally back in action again, it was now time to move on to step 2, which was getting my swing ready for the big game. I started off by taking some swings off the tee in my backyard, just getting back into the motions, and luckily, it didn't take too long to knock the rust off. However, with the game just 2 months away at that point, I didn't really have the luxury of taking things slow, literally or figuratively, and so I made my way into the batting cages. In the cage, I tried to simulate the speed of a 90-mile-an-hour fastball by taking an 80-mile-an-hour pitch from 54 feet away. As you might expect, things started off a bit rough, with a lot of swings and misses and a lot of foul pop-ups. But after a few sessions of working at it, the speed started coming to me, and by the end of May, I was actually making solid contact fairly consistently. At that point, however, the day was already almost upon me, so I had no choice but to get packed up and start making my way over to North Carolina. However, I still wasn't feeling 100% ready. Fortunately, I was able to meet up with Coach Nick of Triad Baseball Academy the day before the game, and we were able to go over some last-minute adjustments to my swing, as well as getting myself prepared to sit behind the plate. Leaving the facility, I felt as confident as ever that my mission was going to be a success. My swing felt good, my timing felt good, my body felt good, and overall, really for the first time, I felt ready to take on this challenge. But of course, only time was going to tell whether it actually was going to be enough. And so, I headed back to the hotel and got prepared for what was going to be one of the most insane days of my entire life.
All right, y'all, we got no more fielders back here. We got and that's baseball back here. All right, I got one question for you. Are you getting hit today?
No.
Are you getting hit today?
3 for 3, baby. Let's go.
Hell yeah, that's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
Where we at, boys?
We're in Burlington.
We're in Burlington, North Carolina.
Nah, we're in Sockville.
Sockville.
Hell yeah.
First and foremost, I want to give a huge shout out to the Sock Puppets, because they really rolled out the red carpet for us. Not only did they give us our own professional locker room to use, but they also gave us free hats and socks as souvenirs. But once the initial shock of being on a real minor league facility wore off, we knew it was time to get down to business. As the YouTubers started to roll in, we each took turns taking some hacks in the batting cages to get ourselves warmed up. And once we were done with that, the Sock Puppets actually let us come out and take some BP out on the field, where I put in some of the best swings I've had to that point. Before we knew it though, it was time for the game to start, and we gathered in the locker room for one last pep talk.
All right, guys, we're gathered here to play some baseball. I got some rules. Rule number 1 is have fun. This is amazing. This is an amazing opportunity to just have fun. Do not get mad at each other when something bad happens. We're not serious. I want to see y'all hugging each other, laughing, smiling, having fun. But if we get an opportunity to kick some ass, let's kick some fucking ass. Let's go!
Because I was the only one of us crazy enough to sit behind the plate and catch 90-mile-an-hour fastballs in 90-degree heat, I started at catcher and was slotted to hit 7th in the lineup. On the mound for us was Eric Sim, who you may know better as the king of JUCO. With fastball topping out in the low 90s and a pretty good slider and changeup to boot, trying to catch him was going to be about as big of a challenge as trying to hit against the Sock Puppets. But it was a challenge that I was excited to face. With our bats held quiet in the top half of the first, I made my way out to the field for my first bit of playing time. And all things considered, I thought I did pretty well behind the plate given the circumstances. However, that didn't stop the announcers from taking some jabs at my expense.
Oh, that's a ball. Who's catching? Who's playing?
I don't know, but I heard a train.
Our catcher is a guy named the Diamond. There was a train horn in the background, I believe, a minute ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
The catcher's been struggling to catch the ball.
Yeah, who's our catcher?
Yeah.
got
If
this.
I had to be a coach here, I would say better pitching and catching.
Ooh, Piazza. You know what? Honestly, might want to switch catchers there with Piazza.
To be fair though, some of it was deserved. For example, I did let in the first run of the game in pretty embarrassing fashion. However, I didn't have much time to dwell on that play, as I was due up to hit 3rd in the next inning. And if I had any shot of getting a hit at all, I needed all the focus I could muster on this one at-bat. After Corey from Baseball Quotes flew out to right field and Matt from Stark Raving Sports popped out behind the plate, it was finally time for me to put my training to the test. And so, I said all my prayers and started walking up to the plate. There is no turning back now.
So now, who do we got coming up next to the plate?
We got the diamond, fellas.
Oh, the diamond. This is our catcher, right?
Yes, sir.
I didn't know this at the time, but the guy I was facing was Jacob Marks, an infielder and pitcher for Division II Bemidji State University. Marks was no stranger to the Sock Puppets, as he had pitched for them last summer as well, giving up only 2 runs and 3 hits in his 9 innings of work and collecting 6 strikeouts in the process. It was a small sample size to be sure, but his batting average against last season was .097, and now I was expected to go up there and try and get a hit against him. Fuck me. Standing at 6'2" and 200 pounds, Marks was already an intimidating figure on the mound, and that was even before I saw his fastball, which ranged anywhere from 85 to 90 miles an hour. But of course, this was what I had spent 3 months preparing for, and so I stepped into the box and I prepared myself for the fastball. And immediately I get absolutely buckled by a first pitch breaking ball for strike 1. And just as quickly, he blows a fastball right by me for strike 2. Already I'm down 0-2, and at that point, I haven't even taken the bat off my damn shoulder yet. Honestly, this was about as bad as this at-bat could possibly be going. And it certainly didn't help things that the announcers were still talking shit about me on the broadcast.
You know, I gotta say, the stance looks off here. It looks like that front foot is just a little too far out. If you look and see, right there, yeah, right? It looks like it's a little too outside. It's not where...
But then, that was when I stepped back, took a deep breath, and I locked myself back in again. And suddenly, things became a lot clearer.
Hey!
He tasted it.
He did.
He's
Gotta get
dialing
the
it
wood
in.
on
really, really want to taste it.
To you, that may have looked like just a regular foul ball. But to me, I mean, it was a vindication. A vindication of everything that I had been working for up to that point. Even though I didn't get all of it, I now knew that I could at least get the bat on the ball against this guy. And if I could get the bat on the ball, I knew I could get a hit off of it. That foul ball was the turning point of the at-bat. I took a look at ball 1, then ball 2, and then ball 3. He then throws a perfectly placed breaking ball to try and get me back off balance. But this time, I was ready for it, and I spoil it down the first base line. Finally, it all came down to this. 3-2 count, 2 outs, pride and bragging rights on the line. He went into his motion, and...
Let's go!
Dan, real quick.
Work the
We
wall.
got walked! We got a base!
There we go.
I may have been jogging down the baseline, but honestly, I may as well have been walking on cloud 9. Sure, I may not have gotten a hit like I had wanted to, but I will take a well-earned walk any day of the week. And frankly, the roar of celebration from the dugout was all I needed to be happy with my efforts. So even though that would ultimately be my only at-bat of the day, I could still leave the field with my head held high, knowing that at the very least, my preparation was worth it, and I actually got something for it. Even though we got absolutely destroyed in terms of the final score, we still did way better than we had any right to. With the exception of Eric and Will from Baseball Bat Bros, no one expected any of us to put a ball in play, let alone have a guy reach base. But we did. In fact, we had multiple people get good wood on the ball. Most notably, Corey of Baseball Quotes hitting a deep fly to right field, and Jacob of And That's Baseball hitting a sinking liner up the middle. And for at least 2 innings, we kept the score relatively close, which, for me, was the biggest surprise of them all. So where does this leave us on our main question? Can a regular guy actually get a hit against a pro? Well, given enough sample size and enough preparation, I think it's possible. certainly more possible than I thought at the beginning of this experiment. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can't just go in there with no experience and get success. I don't think that's going to happen. But if you played when you were younger, you have some decent fundamentals, and you have a good amount of time to prepare, I think it certainly does raise your chances of success. Going into this game, I genuinely had no idea what to expect, either from the sock puppets, from the pitchers, or from my fellow YouTubers. But what I found was a new community of amazing people who all came together for the stupid game that we all love. And now, I am one of the lucky few who can say that they not only faced a professional pitcher and lived to tell the tale, but also put up a good enough at-bat to work my way on base. And with that, I would consider this trip a resounding success.
All right, y'all. We're teaching the New Jerseyan how to pump gas for the first time.
This man don't know how to pump gas.
This man don't know how to pump no gas.
Now, first they ask you want a car wash. We don't got time for a car wash, so I'm gonna say no. All right. So basically, what you want to do, we'll remove the nozzle. There you go. There you go. Pressure fuel grip. We ain't that rich, so we gotta do 87. All right. Put that their nozzle in the tank. Make sure it's firm. Is it firmly in there? Yes, sir. All right. Now squeeze that trigger. I like to call it the trigger. All right, and then put that down. And there you go. Look at that.